Welcome to the Ephesiology Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the study of the early Christian movement and its implications for the church today. Today we have Michael, our resident ephesiologist. I'm Andrew Johnson, a pastor at Neartown Church in Houston, Texas. And today we are joined by Brian Sanders. Brian is a social entrepreneur and a collective impact specialist. Brian, please let me know later how I can get a cool title like that. Brian is currently the market
make it up yourself. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? This is life. The market leader for Cohatch in Tampa Bay. He's VP of Impact Alliances for the National Christian Foundation, Tampa Bay. He's principal at Blue Aspen Group and founder and former executive director of the Underground Network. Brian is the author of 9 books, his latest being 5 Keys to Cross-Organizational Collaboration. He and his wife, Monica, have raised their 6 kids in Central Tampa and are deeply committed to the well-being of the area. Brian, it is such an honor to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see your handsome faces.
The beauty of Zoom. It's that blur feature that I was using. Brian, I just read some wonderful things from your bio about you. Can you add some color? What are some things that maybe your friends might actually know about you that don't get published in bios?
Gosh, and that aren't negative.
Right.
We want the dirt. Give us the dirt.
Those are all the nice
bad
things. Now, here's the
What
rest
are
of
the bad things your friends are saying about you?
I saw. Did you see the biopic about Leonard Bernstein that just came out? Bradley Cooper did this incredible. Like he spent 6 years learning to conduct.
Oh,
so he
Maestro?
play this one scene, Maestro. Yeah. There's a Ed Morrow interview that he does almost like lick for lick, exactly as it actually happened. It's incredible. But in it, Bernstein says, he's like, Morrow's asking him, like, how do you manage your life or whatever? And he said there's these 2 sides of his life, like the composer and the conductor. And the one is very public. You know, the conductor is in front of thousands of people and you're using an orchestra and you're just,
very, very, very visible
piece of it. Yeah. Conducting. But then there's the composer. And he said, that's utterly lonely. And you're just completely by yourself fighting to generate music. And something about that really made sense to me, resonated with me. Like there's a part of me that's a conductor and a part of me that's a composer. And I'm sure there are lots of other things to do in the world, like manage things and lead things and so on. But probably that's more how I see my life, is like there's a bit that's meant to be creative, and then there's a bit that's meant to give that away somehow, or interact with people and see what they're capable of together. And maybe that's some what we'll get to today. But
yeah,
but that's really a simple way of how I see my life, I guess.
Well, that's a great intro into us asking you questions. What are you composing these days, and what are you conducting? Because you have a ton going on.
Yes.
Yeah, it is cool. The composing bit is with you, Michael. Working on this kind of whatever it is, theology, practical theology of union.
Missiological theology.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, just I'm on this journey to try to understand the Trinity and its relationship to the church. Like somehow that John 17, as the Father and I are one, so you should be. So like, okay, well, you have to do something with the mystery of the Trinity then, if you're going to try to understand the mystery of what is Christian union and how is it even knowable? Like there's an epistemological problem there.
I would say that sounds like a really key first start. Is it knowable?
So that's like the creative side I'm trying to learn and think. And then there's a whole battery of research that we're trying to do around that, and have been doing and learning slowly as you get those data points. That's the creative side. And the conducting is actually in the trenches with collaborations, with cause alliances, and trying to stand up a church alliance, a sort of meta network in our cities, region, whatever. That's like a real practical challenge. You know, people, there's centripetal. What is it that throws you away? Whatever that force is that pulls us away from each other, that's always there. And there's a lot working against union collaboration. So there's a conducting there where I'm in these situations where, I don't know, I guess you're a facilitator is what it really is.
What are you seeing that pulls us away from collaboration?
I mean, I think the gut response from people is mistrust, or some version of mistrust. You know, either they have baggage with each other in the room. So you're trying to get agency heads that are 15, 20 years working in the same field. Right. They have history with each other, you know. Sometimes they came out of each other's agencies or you know, there's church. If you try to get all the church leaders in a city together, you're going to have church splits there. You're going to have people that have said things about each other. You're going to have people that took their members or perceived that they took their members. So there's history. And of course that gets probably dialed down to doctrinal differences or tactical missional differences, and then I think church leaders in particular, well, all leaders really are full of insecurity and immaturity, and so that gets transferred into the feelings about, you know, well, their approach is wrong, or they're not biblical, or they're this or they're that, but really it's like they're better than me, or I'm worried that they're better than me, and then there's all this spirit of competition, because we probably do feel like we're in a red ocean, like a contested market space. It isn't true, but it's how you feel as a church leader. You feel you're fighting for the same market share. So then you're kind of a little resentful for other people's success and a little insecure about your own perceived lack of success. And man, it's just complicated. I don't know. It's like, it's what people say. It's what they present as their reasons why they hold back from it. But then there's also like the deeper stuff, which maybe we're not always aware of, or not always being, you know, I don't know, honest about. But this is interesting because we did like 100 interviews, and you know this, Michael. We did like 100 one-on-one interviews with senior pastors in our region, and we came up with this series of observations from that. And one of them, the first of which being that all of them, like to a person, believed that churches should work together. We have a theological mandate or remit to work together. So nobody was like, I just don't think that's true, or I don't think that's biblical, or something.
That part's not in my Bible.
Yeah. So that's ironic that we have agreement on unity, but we just don't do it. So it does sort of rise. It's a conundrum. It's like, so we all agree this one thing we do agree on, and yet we do very little to apply that shared belief, you know.
Can I interject with a little bit of an observation as well? You are much further in your research than I am on my doctoral ministry project, and it seems that so since I'm working with what are networks that exist within cities that are comprised of a network of networks, at least for the Houston Church Planting Network, where we're all gathering these churches together with the ends of hoping to have an increasing number of church plants happen. It seems that what comes to the fore is not entirely, again, for my project, nobody's arguing whether we should collaborate. It's the argument starts to come. So how far are we to collaborate together, or what are we supposed to collaborate to do? So we look at John 17. Should we be unified? Yes. In what? Well, hold on. Let's have a conversation, you know? And so you start talking about even those theological differences. Some people, they hold so tightly to those, and they say, if we're going to collaborate, like, I'm not sure you're going to be collaborating in the same interest as I am because you believe this. And so if somebody goes through our process, I think they're going to go left and you think they're going to go right. And that seems like a problem. So I guess more now my question to you after that extremely long explanation is, what are you seeing them unwilling to collaborate on? Or what are you seeing these churches willing to lean in together over?
It's interesting. I guess just doing a little bit of initial reading and work on kind of Trinitarian theology, where there's that saying like all the external works of the Trinity are undivided or indivisible, like and the difference between what would they call the economical Trinity versus the immanent Trinity, which is like operation versus essence, so okay. And then when you think about the church, this is just something, I don't know that this solves or answers the question, but when you think about the church, like, is there does that statement apply? All the works of the church are indivisible. So actually the church itself is a body. Thing. And every single thing it does is a part of what itself. And so what we do is we contrive to break all that apart and to own pieces of it and to disagree about their prioritization and so on. And some of it is maybe just coming to the realization that we already do share some sort of essence, and that it's not something we have to work overly hard for. It's not something we have to strive towards. Like, so I'm uncomfortable with working with you on that. Well, I'm not sure that matters that much. Just work on the bits you're meant to work on, or that you feel there's. So tactical or operational unity, that to my mind should only come down to the stuff we want to work, or we feel we're better when we work on it together. And as long as we're open to that. So like you talk about Houston Network, that's a great example. I think that was started because of the hurricane or some natural disaster or something, and they were responding to that, right?
That is Houston Responds. That organization, Houston Responds, happens to also be on the other side of the wall from me every day. So I love Houston Responds. The Houston Church.
But didn't that somehow relate to this other network, or didn't it come from that?
We have a lot. It did not come from some of the people who are a part of Houston Responds work very close with the Houston Church Planting Network, and Houston Responds as an organization is trying to work with the churches to say, how do we as the church actually work within the city to respond to the needs and crises as they arise?
There it is. Yeah. Okay. So again, if you can somehow, like, let's just take those two entities, that they were somehow to be, to relate to each other in a meaningful way. Then as needs arise or as causes are identified, then from that meta network, smaller networks could form to address those things. And really a lot of that is just optics. It's just seeing like, oh yeah, we're all working together. Or this group of churches is going to go focus on something. And then to take, I don't know what you'd say, credit, stock.
I would say when you start talking optics, that sometimes feels a little bit like, are we doing it just so we can say, hey, we did it and look at us? Or are we doing it because we're really concerned about the ends being satisfied?
But what is witness? I mean, what does it mean to say, and then the world will know that the Father has sent me? Like, what is that? Isn't that optics? I mean, isn't that so people can bear witness to something, to see the evidence of some transcendent reality or some, truth about the Father sending the Son?
Yeah. Well, there's certainly something demonstrable about that. Jesus said, they will know that you are my disciples by the love you have for each other. There's a demonstration of being Jesus's followers because of the activities that we're doing together. And so, I'd see that, Brian.
And I don't mean that to say that it's, whatever, contrived or heartless or something, but because that, I think, Michael, you make a good point. Like, actually what is in our hearts towards each other is as important as the way we present our unity or something to the world. But both things are at work. We have to work on the relational side. Obviously, we have to actually like each other at some degree, or be willing to get into a room with each other. And then from that, I think we have to say, okay, how and where can we work together? I guess my point is that I'm just wondering if every single church working on something is the thing. I don't know that is the thing, or every single agency working on something. It's more like, are we on the same page? Are we working towards the same goals? What is that what is it, Pactus Sanctum or something? I forget what it's called, but like this idea that within the Trinity, they make some sort of covenant or some sort of pact to go save humanity. Like between the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, they're like, all right, we're gonna make this agreement that we're gonna go do whatever it takes to save humanity or whatever. And even within the Trinity, there's this possibility that they almost sacrifice something within their own unity, their own union, for the sake of some transcendent goal, some greater goal. And that, I think, is also a key to collaboration. That's how we put aside our differences, is to say there's this thing which is just so important to us all. I mean,
I'm processing that, because I think, the language of sacrifice, conjures up the idea that they're going to be lacking something, or they're giving up something. And I think in a human perspective, I think that's a good way that we might talk about it. But in the Trinitarian, perichoresis, that the early church talks about, how they're so united together and so orchestrated that everything they do is bringing glory to each other and fulfilling what what the mission is, and so on. And I wonder in that concept of the Trinity, how does that work out? Because I think I love this conversation, because it's so critical, I think, for where the church is in North America. We're so fractured. And it just takes just the littlest, the tiniest to trigger to get people to be. I was going to use an expletive there, but I decided not to.
We don't edit on this podcast.
Well, that's why I decided not to.
Michael, I actually think you're onto something great in your teasing this out, only because there's that. Theologically speaking, you don't want to say at any point one member of the Trinity is choosing to not do something so that the other two, quote unquote, get what they want, so that there is a sacrifice, because there is a ontological problem there. However, Michael, what you are saying is that every single act from all members of the Trinity are going to be as such that God is glorified. Everything is working for the good of the Lord. And so when you ask the question, well, what about the church? I think it is around that redefining. Brian, I really appreciate how you phrased that. Like, there is one church. So what is happening in this city, every single time a local body is doing something, that is the church working to the end. And so at any point, as the church, or churches, if we're kind of focusing on those local gatherings, if at any point they say, I guess we'll just not do what we want so that these other churches can reach their ends, maybe we just need to redefine the terms. That is actually an action that is not getting what you want. It is actually doing the thing that reaches the ends of the church, which means the action is a good thing. It is not a quote unquote sacrifice. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The correct term, by the way, is pactum salutis, and I think it's that they would be unified in the sacrifice. So it's not that there's a sacrifice between them. But obviously, the cross is the penultimate sacrifice. It is God emptying himself, becoming human. The incarnation, the cross, all that is meant to. That is the lever through which we can be reconciled to God. So, and that's their unified choice to do this together. And I don't know how else to say it except to say that's really important to us. Let's go do that. Let's work together to do that thing, to save humanity, which we created and whom we love, and we have to find a way back for them.
Yeah.
And all I mean by that is that somehow too, that will be a key to our unity, like really to any practical. So if you look at collective impact, which is not Christian at all, that whole field or sphere, you always have to have a transcendent goal. You have to have kind of a thing we're all wanting. And in my work with cause alliances, where you get 40, 50 agencies that are all working on foster care and adoption or something like that in a room, it doesn't take long. It takes less than an hour to get to that thing that they all signed up for. The reason why they do this for a living and why they all, now they may lose, there's mission drift, they may lose their heart for it, get institutionalized, whatever, but it does not take long for them to remember why they do it. And it's that every child would have a safe and loving home or something like that, like a permanent home. It's clear what that thing is. And then when they know that, and when they say, actually, guys, that's more important than any of our pettiness or any of our issues with each other. And when that is strong enough and big enough, you have the possibility of significant collaboration. Until that exists, I don't know how you do it. But I guess my point is, even the Trinity has something like that, where they say, let's go save human beings,
100%. Yeah. Okay. So what you're saying, or you're not saying it, you're inferring that perhaps in some places where all of this struggle is going on, the strife between the churches, that might suggest that we don't know what our cause is, or we've lost it.
Yes.
I mean, is this Jesus to Ephesus, hey, return to do the works of your first love kind of thing?
That's it.
Yeah.
I think it's strangely difficult for a church leader. I mean, even myself, I'm sitting there like, what is our thing? Like, what is our thing that we're all trying to, like in the Anti-Human Trafficking Alliance I work with, a world without exploitation is all of their dream. I mean, whether that's the police because it's illegal. So like a world where that doesn't happen is what they all want. Do we have that? Are we clear on that? Can we say that? Is it easy for us to find that with each other? It should be, or maybe it's just too big. I don't know. And I mean, maybe you have an answer to this, but it's not so easy to grab that with churches. Some people might say the gospel, or some people might say justice or human flourishing, or just God being glorified somehow in the world, or it gets boiled down to other things. But it's not so accessible. It's not right at the fingertips for us as church leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I don't pastor a church, so I don't know. You should answer that question.
I've been trying to ask that question, truth be told.
Well, I think it comes down at some level, at least, it comes down to our own selfish ambitions, pride, sense of what we're doing is the most significant thing, and those kinds of things. And I mean, that's so not the Trinity, isn't it?
Well, that's probably the bad news. I mean, that would be the worst possible answer, is that essentially those of us in church leadership, we probably essentially feel that our call, our mandate is to grow a church. To grow the church we are in charge of. That our single mission, our core work or purpose in the world is to grow that church that we lead. And if that is your ultimate goal, then we are in competition with each other. Mm-hmm. If that is not a transcendent, to use the language of like infinite game versus finite games. That is a finite game. Mm-hmm. To grow a church is a finite game. To see the glory of God cover the earth as the waters cover the sea, that is an infinite game.
I love that.
That everyone would hear the good news of Jesus or whatever. That is an infinite game. that, if that's true, and maybe it's percentages, it's ratios. Like there's always a little bit of us that think that really is my call, is to just try to grow this thing that I'm doing. But surely there's more in our hearts. There's more reason why we said yes to Jesus in the first place,
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was playing a bit of a devil's advocate too, Michael, because everything you guys just said is 1000% true. Is that, we've been too satisfied by playing with those mud pies at the sea, as opposed to what God has called us to, something significantly better, bigger, more God glorifying, unifying, all the happy things. I wonder if there is a bit of, is there a positive reading of uncertainty, which is along the lines where we kind of started the conversation? Your thing can't always be my thing. What God has gifted you and your local body in might not be how he has gifted or called us. And so I wonder if some of the waffling or uncertainty is also trying to maybe understand, why did God put us here in this community at this time with these leaders? Michael, I know what you're thinking, which is, we already know God's will. We already know his purpose. We already know that God is uniting all things in him and has called us to be a part of that mission. Sometimes I wonder if there's also, through that mission, through that unity, this church is going to be the one that leads out on anti-trafficking stuff. This church is going to be the one that says, we are really going to put our effort and our time into impacting the suicide rate here in Houston. Like, just because one person is super passionate about it doesn't mean that now every Christian has to abandon all the things that they were passionate about and saying, okay, we have this new thing we need to chase. Like, I wonder if there is some goodness in the waffling of trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I kind of identify as a key to collaboration in that last little book I wrote is specialization. And that actually what makes for great collaborations is people having different specialities. And part of what makes us recognize, man, I actually need you. I to get this bigger dream that I have in my heart, this more transcendent goal, this infinite goal, we're going to need people like you who are different than people like me, or people with causes like you, or groups of people with causes. So again, I think it's a temptation to say everybody should be doing what I'm doing and see the world the way I see the world, and focus on the thing that I have a lot of zeal towards. And honestly, a lot of what I think is kind of distilled as calling, personal calling or group calling or church calling, has to do with opportunity. It actually has to do with what you've been through, like some sort of triangulation of the needs of the place you are, who you are and what you've been through, and God's sort of multifaceted work in the world. So a lot of times people's deepest sense of calling and mission is related to like trauma or stuff they've been through that was horrible, having, for example, having survived cancer puts you in a position where you can work with people who have a cancer diagnosis. If you've never had a cancer diagnosis, you could, but you wouldn't really understand it, and you wouldn't have a ton of traction. So it's like having been someone who's been through that and who knows what that feels like can go and work with people. And it's the same way with churches, where we are located, the stuff we've been through, what that church has experienced, all of that positions you to care about something more deeply than I would, because I haven't been through it, or this other church across town wouldn't because they haven't been through it. It's just whether or not we can integrate those things, whether or not we can organize around those shared causes and then specialized cause work, and see it again as a whole. So not to go back to the optics thing, but to somehow be able to be on one map, or to work together at least on that. I guess in a data driven world, sharing data. looking at it as a single thing and becoming organized. I mean, we did, part of our research was figuring out like how big. So there's 1,800 churches in our Tri-County area, 1,823 churches, something like that.
Something like that.
$1.4 trillion in economic power within them. If you look at it, like if you look at it on a map and you think of it with a business mind, you're just like, we have a franchise everywhere.
Yeah, we can do some things with this too.
Oh my gosh. So we are the most potent, formidable, non-government entity, like by a country mile from anything else that exists. But of course, our problem is that we're not integrated. We're completely fragmented. We're disorganized. So we have no way to consolidate or to maximize that economy of scale. We can't. It's totally disintegrated. So again, the missiologist in me, the person that just cares about really the mission of God, I'm just like, this is bad. This is really bad. I mean, it's less sentimentality, at least where I come from. It probably should also be that, but I'm just more like, this is just a tactical
blunder. Let's just use a
tragedy. It's a catastrophe. Like we are the most powerful thing in our cities. Like,
I wonder if just realizing that, I mean, you saying that, I would think would spark some thoughts in that community to say, oh, or open the eyes and say, oh, wow, is that right? Then what can we do with that? But
it does, and maybe that's just an imagination thing. You're right. Maybe it's storytelling, and that's part of it. So this goes back to something that you brought up earlier, and just like I think another problem is that even if we feel, we probably should be in relationship with each other, we probably should do something together, we probably should work together. I think that is something God would want. Nobody's really sure whose job it is to do that. It's like. It comes down to this problem. Like the person who thinks I should do that, I should organize all the churches in my region. That's probably not the person you want.
Exactly.
That's like the last person
denied.
So, but then the guy over here that's going, well, I could never do that. Like, who am I? Who am I to convene all the churches in my city or whatever? And I couldn't possibly do that. That's probably the person you want. So you have this conundrum of sometimes strong charismatic personalities will emerge in a city and say, let's get together. And you will get some traction from that. But a couple of observations I would have about that. One is there's a ceiling. So it's limited. Probably it's going to be like, 5% or less of those churches will come to that because it's really a cult of personality, And then two, you get these like, how do I say this? It isn't offensive. Non-apostolic type leaders, like they're not, you're going to get people that want to be in that guy's orbit. So they'll come to it. So there's a ceiling on the number, but then also it's a certain kind of church leader that would want to be around. And all the people that are like, who's that guy think he is? That's the people you really need there. That's the people you really want there. And they just won't come. They wouldn't, they're not going to come just to breathe his air or whatever, rarefied air to be near him, something. So that's a tricky thing, like a convener. This is another problem we have is who is positioned to be the best conveners in our city for these kind of things. So I'm really grateful for the National Christian Foundation to have for a few years paid me money to go do this, because the foundation is a great convener, because they're not a church. They just want to see more money go to ministries and churches. So their only game is generosity. So, and because they have relationships with, high capacity givers in some cases, that opens doors certainly to nonprofit agency heads, churches less so. But we have to find those neutral conveners, those catalytic leaders who aren't there to gain something from themselves. To build the reputation of their own church or ministry or entity, but to just really care about that transcendent thing, about the possibility of collaboration and finding that key convener. And by the way, I also think it's this unique kind of 21st century skill set of how to do that, and the kind of person that can pull it off, who's like, you know,
describe this person.
Yeah, it's funny. I was hanging out with Eric Swanson and Rob Kelly, who they're
lucky dog.
They're stars in this area. You know, they really, and they've been doing it a lot longer, and they convene leaders from around the country. You know, Eric with his big cigars and his sort of casual way of doing radical things and making it seem like it isn't
normal.
But he gets all these leaders in a room, and it's the first time I'd ever been to something like this and seen like maybe 20-ish, 25 of these kind of city leaders, and just kind of marveling how odd they were, you know, this kind of leader, and trying to pick apart, to analyze what was it about them. So these are people that are not flashy or glamorous in any way. They're capable leaders, but they're not necessarily interested in being the center of anything. They're long game players. So they're thinking 10 years, 15 years. They're going really
infinite game minded.
Infinite game minded, but also like, this may take us 30 years to do this. Right. And they're up for it. You know, they're not shrinking back from that, which again, there's a certain kind of like ambitious type A person that would be like, I want results today, this year, or within a 3-year period. We're very, you know, whatever, instant gratification on leadership metrics and stuff. And then just somehow the ability to make other people feel like they're important, and to give away, to thin slice and to give away shares of the whole thing that's being built somehow, that people feel they own it, but yet having the backbone and the composure and the gravitas to stand up to some of these bossy types, you know, the types that will bully. And in my experience of trying to step into this world, because I don't think I'm really that kind of leader, but I'm trying to play that role in certain cases. I think you really do have to stand up to some of these people. Like there are type A's that will sit in the room and be like, you say, hey guys, what if we have this conversation right now? And they go, that's the wrong conversation. You should have a different one. And it's like, what do you do? I mean, I just wreck the whole thing. And you have to be able to almost stand up to that person and say, love that, thank you for who you are, but this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're going to stick with that. So you're not really a type A driven folk, you know, get it to be about you, but you've got some of that, some of those qualities, or at least enough of a backbone to be able to work with those people. Dude, it is such a niche. It is such a like beautiful, cool, powerful profile.
Yeah. Wow. Neat.
And that's also hilarious as you describe it, because in a way, Brian, it's like, dude, is that me? Do I fit that? Can I lean in that area? And then the longer you poke at it, I keep hearing that voice of, if you keep raising your hand saying, put me in, that's totally me, that means you might not be that person. So back off the line, champ.
It's tricky.
Okay, Brian, I feel like we were just getting going. Like, this almost feels like this should be a part 1 to a much longer conversation on the nature of a missionally minded collaboration that has both city, national, and global impact in mind, as opposed to just like, hey, look what we did, photo op, right? Like something more substantial. And so this is a recorded request. Can we have you on at a future date to talk about some of these things?
Absolutely. This is a lot of fun. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Brian, for being on with us.
Well, yeah, and the next time you come on, we expect you to have this problem solved.
Solved.
No problem.
Solved, and at least 2 more titles to add to your name as well. I just need to make sure that bio grows.
No problem. That's easier. I could add titles.
Because you just make your own. That's the best. Well, Brian, thank you. And to our listeners, thank you for spending your time with us too. If this was your first podcast with us, or you're interested in finding out more about Ephesiology, first of all, jump into the podcast feed that you're on. Check our back catalog if there is a topic that interests you. click on that. We recently wrapped on our Make Disciples series, so I would encourage you to go and check out absolutely every single podcast from that. And then if you are looking for more resources that Ephesiology is a part of, I would commend to you masterclasses.ephesiology.com. Go there, poke around. I can promise you there is something of benefit and interest to you. So for Michael, Brian, and myself, thank you for doing theology and community with us today.